Hello, everyone, and welcome to another WoW Weekly Roundup. There's a lot to go over this week, so this one's likely to be a little longer than usual. So sit back, grab a drink, a snack, and enjoy the show. Now, one of the big things was, of course, the Q&A this week. So let's go over some of the stuff there. There's a lot of stuff, information about the Zendalai trolls. Apparently, the story of Battle for Azeroth details some Zandalari paladins and how they work, and the story arc could lead to the Zandalar actually being able to have paladins as a class, which is pretty cool, I have to admit. But we'll have to wait and see how that, all works out. Now we know that the Zandalari trolls and the Dark Iron Dwarves will not be unlocked at the release of Battle Azeroth, as their introduction and everything is all part of the first story arc. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how they have all that worked out as we go forward. Also, the Zendalari trolls were made slightly taller in the most recent alpha build. Next up, they went into some allied races stuff, some allied and non-allied race stuff. The allied races will always come out in pairs for now, but over the long term, they may not come out for both factions at the same time. Which means may have like a horde faction come out then a few months or something down the road. Most likely you'll have an alliance. I imagine it will work out of something of that caliber. It was also been mentioned that the Quaterran humans might be an allied race, which kind of makes sense, as we do have new druid forms for them and everything else, which we'll show later on. As you get more allied races added, your character slots you will get more character slots added to your selection screen, so we can all keep up with that, which is also a very good thing. For customizations on these non-allied races from the standard races, they're not looking to make any new customization options as of now, but they will make more customization options for the allied races as new allied races are made and released. Next up, they went into some class balances, kind of saying that they didn't really want to add more abilities every expansion. Some people say this is a little lazy developing, and it kind of is, but I can also see it from their perspective. And that the development team wants to do more gameplay modification through external sources, which is what Legendary Arabs were trying to accomplish in Legion. Instead of just giving us more talents or just more abilities, giving us they want to make it more like the legendary stuff, and this is kind of what the Heart of Azeroth will do. Modifications to the armor and stuff will do going forward. It should fill the new gaps and abilities and everything left by our legendary items and our artifacts and stuff of that nature. Now, the team would also like to do a better job of making primary stats stronger than the secondary stats in Battle for Azeroth. As for we know in Legion, a lot of our secondary stats, actually not just for in Legions, but actually been in quite a few, hell, in most expansions actually, that the secondary stats have always been stronger, and we've stacked them more than worrying about our primary stats. So it should be. I know I keep saying interesting, but it should be interesting to see how they accomplish this. Um, and they also just let it kind of agreed that items that were 20 or even 25 items level higher in Legion than what you had were not always an upgrade, which they think is a bad thing. And they think that generally an item level should tell you if something is an upgrade. You shouldn't have to go through and min max and go sim yourself and everything else. Just know if this piece is better than this piece for you. Next up, they went into talents and abilities. They said that some classes don't necessarily need the abilities from their artifact weapons. I myself have played a wide assortment of tunes and classes, and I wholeheartedly disagree with this, but this is my opinion and nothing more. And they said that they said that also that they didn't like how switching between AOE and single talent abilities and everything weren't really compelling, and it just felt like you were just burning one of your tomes. It wasn't very interesting. They went into some artifact weapon stuff. Our current artifact weapons, when 8.0 launches, the traits on them will be disabled. The weapons and the relics and stuff will stay, but just not the talents that go along with it. And in BFA, BFA, we'll have traditional weapon drops, including Warglaives for all us demon hunters out there. Woo woo. Next up, they went into some PvP stuff. They said that they feel that PvP is too limiting. PvP is too limiting. The CC in PvP is too limiting, and it makes everything into a DPS race, which they find is frustrating, not very fun, and they plan on working on that to make sure when you're locked down and stuff that you have some more options. Most likely, just tuning, making things have more better diminishing returns, maybe stuff not lasting as long, or maybe something that's supposed to that'll stun you or lock you down in PvE will only slow you or something in PvE. They said the prestige system will stay. The rewards for them for participation in PvP is something they like, but they don't want to keep adding a ton of rewards because they feel as new players will feel that they can never earn them all. But cosmetic rewards from PvP is something they want to continue to build upon, which is nice. I'm glad to hear that. I like the cosmetics. Don't judge me. I like playing dress up. Hush. Next up, they were talking about the loot system. Of course, personal loot is here to stay, no matter how much you may like or dislike it. They said, master loot's going away, but they don't feel that's a really big deal, as set pieces are also going away in Battle for Azeroth, and they feel that most people just kept using master loot to make sure that set pieces got to specific people in the raid. Which, yeah, kind of, but I think they might have come up with some better terminology for that there, but there are also going to be mission tables in Battle for Azeroth, similar to Legion, but the mission table will not be used as a time gate, and they said it'd be less involved, though. This is pretty much exactly what they said, almost word for word, from Warlords of Draenor into Legion. So I'm a little bit skeptical on that. I'm gonna have to see that for myself. They said war resources will be a currency for the mission table. Next up, they talked about some Mythic Plus stuff. There'll be new affixes for people to try out. As the team are not happy with the data mine ones, so they are experimenting with new ones. There will be a new Mythic Plus UI, because they felt that the old one really was built upon like the old challenge modes and stuff, and that they really didn't like it. So we'll have a new Mythic Plus UI, which is cool. Let's see. Next up, they were talking professions. Basically, they were saying, they really don't like us. Apparently, we're still gonna have to go through dungeons and everything else to level some of our stuff. Which, oh God, help us. But they are changing the way the expansions work. Basically, just like you have little things as Warlords of Draenor stuff, and everything. You're gonna have that certain stuff, so you can go back and level up that stuff in that expansion, and so you can still craft that old gear. But they want like they basically said in Legion, the team does want the current crafted gear to be relevant. So I imagine they'll do what they've pretty much done for Legion, because we'll have some kind of prime, like we have, primal Sigarite and the blood of Sigarite stuff. I'll imagine we'll have some kind of item similar to that for the new expansion. Next, they talked about some stuff for alts. They said that for alts, it will be similar for Legion in the term of alt friendliness, which is, depending on who you are, I guess a good or bad thing, and how you feel about that. The Heart of Azeroth catch-up process will be much like the the way artifact knowledge works right now in Legion, which is actually pretty nice. I actually like that. It just upped over time how much you got and stuff. So how much Azerite and stuff you got, you will get. So that's pretty nice. They said some other stuff for about some guilds. They said that the guilds will have all the same features as the new WoW communities. The communities are just meant to be smaller commitments than guilds. Though at this point, guilds are really not that much of a commitment. They pretty much made sure of that, so I'm not sure how much of a smaller commitment they are talking. They are meant to They said they aren't meant to organize pugs or for players that aren't in the same guild, which I thought that was what the friends list and stuff was for, but okay. Next up, they talked about the leveling system and battle for Azeroth. Um, they said one of the unique traits for this, of course, is that once you are level capped for your faction, that of course the faction-specific zones will be able to become utilized by both factions. So if you're Horde, you'll be able to go to the Colterran Isle, and if you're Alliance, you'll be able to go to Zandalar and do quests there, which sounds really cool. I'm looking forward to that. From some of the data mine stuff that I've seen on MMO-champions and other YouTube channels and stuff, there's really a lot of cool stuff that's actually very specific to what faction you're playing. Some of this, not just like you go through and it's the same story for like a dungeon, because like one dungeon's a leveling dungeon for Alliance, but it doesn't open up until your max level for the Horde, and you go in there and you actually have like a completely different reason to be in there and what your goals are than what the Alliance has as they were leveling. So I'm looking forward to this. It sounds really, really cool. Let's see. Next up, we have the Island Expeditions preview and the newest build of the new expansion. The Island Expeditions are basically taking these 3-man scenarios from Mists of Pandora and turning them up to basically 11 at this point. Basically, you get a team of 3 players. There we go. To these uncharted islands across the Great Sea, and so you can go and get the almighty Azerite, because we gotta get our crack. And one of the unique features of this is that quite a few of the islands' content is randomly generated. The creatures, the capture points, where chests and Azerite nodes spawn, the quest givers, the consumables and shrines you can click on, even your start locations are all randomly generated every time you go in there. And also, like in the environmental hazards where caves or ships may be. So a lot of stuff is very so it's gonna make for a lot of replayability. It's gonna be really cool. I can't wait to see how this all plays out. These and Warfronts, as of right now, are probably 2 of my favorite things going into the new expansion. I can't wait to see these more fleshed out. So let's see. Alliance players can queue up for the expeditions at the Belarus Harbor near the Trade Winds Market. You have to look for a green ship occupying the second dock slip. Horde players can queue for the expedition at the Zoladar Harbor at the port of Zandalar on the west side, and they're looking for a red ship. Of course, the goal for the expedition is to whatever first team gets to 6,000 Azerite wins. A group of NPCs from the opposing faction will also be present competing for your Azerite, which is nice. One of the things is these NPCs will not be just regular like AI NPCs. You're not going to go in and just aggro them. They're actually going to try and stop you from getting the capture points. They're actually going to try and stop you. They're actually going to run around, and while you're doing one thing, they're going to try and go and maybe capture your points. The AI's made so they can, so they'll act more like human players will do, where they will CC healers and slow things and just basically make a general nuisance of themselves, which is really cool. If they can pull this off, because they had some of this AI in Wrath of the Lich King in the Argent tournament raid. There was one boss fight in there where there was a group of basically Horde players or Alliance players, depending on what faction you were playing. But they actually did a really good job of acting like human players. They used their abilities. They not necessarily like just whoever they had aggro with or anything else. They would try to interrupt healers or and polymorph tanks or DPS, and so I'm hoping, and if they've expanded upon that, this could be a really nice addition. Let's see, what else do we have? There are many things that reward Azerite on these isles, such as chests, crystals, creatures, NPCs in need of aid, killing your enemies, of course, and much more. And there's also things you can interact with scattered across the island to help. And oh, excuse me. Oh, okay. Thought I was gonna have to sneeze there. I'm fighting a cold, so excuse me if I'm a little off, sound a little off. Also, every day there will be vendors at the docks of each faction city with unique buffs and consumables that you can use on the islands. They are made basically to fill in role gaps. So if you have a DPS warrior or something, you can make them more tanky. Or if you have like a mage or warlock or something, they'll have a consumable that can make them be able to heal for a short amount of time. Things of that nature, which is really cool. I think I have a feeling a lot of mages are going to enjoy that. It comes in 4 difficulty modes. The island expositions and they are normal, heroic, mythic, and PvP. Nice. Now, and lastly, there is a new build for Battle Azeroth Alpha. The Colteran Druid form has been added, suggesting that they're most likely going to be the new Alliance counterpart to the Magheart Orcs that everybody has just been gushing over. Which, for Colteran humans, their models are really nice. So I'm looking for this, and this Barret Druid form right here, if it's any indication what we get, can't wait to see the rest of it. It looks so sweet. And also they've added where male orcs can go to a barbershop and adjust their posture. So basically the barbershop is now your chiropractor. And and last but not least, the final Dark Iron Shaman totem, which should be a picture up, has been added. which looks really cool. I haven't seen it animated or anything, so but I'm hoping that the little drill at the bottom actually sit there and turns like like it should. That would just be really really awesome if it did. But that is it for this week. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, until next time, I shall see you later.